Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Start the Week with Spencer, our weekly question and answer session where parents join from all around the world and ask questions about children with special needs, the Doman Method, early childhood development. So, wherever you are in the world, welcome. You can go ahead and type your questions into the comments box, whether you're joining me on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and we will get to your questions in order. So on today's webinar, I wanted to start off by talking about an important subject, which is why the floor is so important for normal child mobility development, and why it's so important that we give children floor time, also known as tummy time, especially for children with special needs who have mobility problems. And I'm going to be showing you a video of one of our most important programs called the Incline Floor, which is essential to helping children with severe mobility issues learn to move for the first time in their lives. So these could be children diagnosed with developmental delay, cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury, or a host of other diagnoses that have led to severe mobility development problems. So I look forward to discussing that today. I have one important announcement before I get into that topic, and that is about tomorrow. So tomorrow is called Giving Tuesday, and Giving Tuesday is the most important day of the year for nonprofit organizations like Doman International. It is our most important day in terms of receiving donations. And so we're hosting a very important event tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. That's noon New York time, which is the Doman International Giving Tuesday event. And we're having an exciting lineup of speakers joining for a live webinar tomorrow to teach parents. So, for example, Douglas and Rosalind Doman, our founders, are going to be talking about 5 teachings of Glenn Doman's that are important for all parents to know. I'm going to be talking about success stories of children on the Doman Method from the last year. My wife, Melissa, is going to be joining and talking about sleep tips for children to help them sleep better and independently. Our Director of Nutrition and Health, Dr. Aravind, is going to be discussing tips and tricks for your child's diet and nutrition program. So it's going to be a session which is really amazing for parents. And it's not going to be recorded. So it's going to be either you make it live or you don't make it. So, please sign up for the event. I will drop into the comments box on Facebook and YouTube the link to sign up. If you're joining me on Instagram, you can go to our stories afterwards, and I've posted a link in the stories of, so you can register. It's an event you have to register in advance for and join live. Again, it's at noon tomorrow, New York time. Okay, everyone. Well, let's talk a little bit about the importance of the floor for mobility development. And I've got a video that I want to show all of you. Now, before I show you the video, why is the floor, and especially tummy time on the floor, so important for mobility development? Well, I think as adults, right, as parents, one of the biggest milestones we look for with children is for them to learn how to walk. And that makes complete sense. Walking is absolutely essential in human development. The thing is, humans almost never go from being immobile to walking directly. The normal way that a human child develops is that first they learn how to crawl on their belly. That's the first major milestone of forward movement that the child achieves. Usually it's achieved in the first 2 to 3 months of life. Then around 7 months of life, if a child is developing in a normal way, at around 7 to 9 months, the child starts creeping on their hands and knees. And then around 12 months of age, around 1 year, they'll finally stand up and walk. Now, crawling and creeping are crucial mobility milestones for the child to achieve before walking. Now, why is this? Well, first of all, when a child crawls and then later creeps, they build strength in their arms and legs. strength that's going to be very important for them to pull themselves up to a standing position and then walk with. It's also very important for balance. When a child gets up to creep on their hands and knees, they have to balance themselves using both their arms and legs, right? And that's very important for brain development before they get up into the vertical position and learn how to walk. And so when we combine this importance of increasing strength, improving balance, and then last but not least, improving coordination, right? Each of these mobility milestones, crawling on the belly, creeping on the hands and knees, and walking, are all done in what is called a cross pattern, where the two sides of the body are working in unison. So for example, if you see a child crawling, you'll notice that their right arm, right, moves up at the same time as their left leg, and they pull themselves forward with the right arm and push themselves with the left leg, right? Now we have the two sides of the body working together, and then the left arm works in conjunction with the right leg. That's called a cross pattern, right? The two sides of the brain. Of course, the two sides of the body are working together, but that's because the two hemispheres of the brain are working together. The right hemisphere of the brain, you might know this, controls the left side of the body, and the left hemisphere of the brain controls the right side of the body. And so when we crawl on our bellies and then creep on our hands and knees, we are using those two hemispheres of the brain together. That's going to be crucial for walking. By the way, the next time you're out walking, just notice that when your left foot steps forward, you will also swing your right arm forward, right? And then when you step with your right foot, you will swing your left arm forward. So even when we walk, we're working in this cross pattern. When we run, we will pump our right arm with our left leg and then our left arm with our right leg. This is a crucial part of child mobility development. But it all starts with children learning how to crawl and creep on the floor. And what happens with many children, both children with special needs, but also well neurotypical kids, is they aren't given enough floor time. And most importantly, they're not given enough floor time on their bellies. They're put onto their backs. The problem is when you place a baby on their back, it's similar to putting a turtle on its back. The child is put on the back, but the child isn't able to roll over to get to their belly. And so they just kind of stare up at the ceiling. They're immobilized. And that is really problematic because that child will be stuck in that position usually for months and months and months before they learn how to roll over. And some brain injured children never learn how to roll. And so they're stuck in that position forever. In fact, we even see some babies that have flat heads because they're never given tummy time. And you might have even seen this before. There are many parents that are now being told by doctors and professionals to put helmets on their children's heads because the babies are developing flat heads because they're lying on their backs all the time. And now, why are they developing these flat heads? Well, it's not normal for children to be lying on their backs all day, right? Children are meant to move. And so children want to move. You can watch any 18-month-old to know that. Mother Nature has created this innate desire for them to constantly be moving all the time. Why is that? It's because they need to move to develop those balance centers of the brain so that they can be safe in the world. But when we immobilize children, they don't have the opportunity to do that. And by the way, when children develop this back flat of the head, what do we often find? Well, often those children, research shows these children are more likely to develop learning problems. They're more likely to have troubles with reading, troubles in school, issues with behavior. And unfortunately, the way the professional world has decided to handle that is, well, let's make helmets. That's not handling the root cause of the problem. The real problem is, that child isn't having the opportunity to learn how to move. And so the way we handle this at Doman International is by giving that child floor opportunity. Now, what many people might say is, okay, but even if I give my severely developmentally delayed child floor opportunities, they don't crawl on their belly. They just stay there. That's where Doman Method equipment number 1, called the inclined floor, comes into play. So I'm going to pull up a video of the inclined floor in action to show you how this works. This was first developed by Doman over 60 years ago. And I'll let you watch a little bit of this video, and then I'll talk a bit about what we're watching. But go ahead and watch this. Okay, so let me talk to you a bit about the inclined floor. So why is this inclined floor so important? Well, when a child who's unable to move is placed on the floor, gravity is pulling their body into the center of the earth. And so that child might lie on the floor, and they might even move their arms and legs, but they move their arms and legs and their body doesn't move forward. Now, why doesn't their body move forward? It's because they have a mobility development issue, which is the result of brain development not being normal. Now, that child will lie on their belly, move their arms and legs, and not learn how to move. And that actually teaches the brain a dangerous sensory lie. The sensory lie is, I move my arms and legs, and my body doesn't move forward. Now, you and I both know that being able to move and navigate our environment has everything to do with moving our arms and legs. So we need to teach this child a very important sensory truth. And that truth is, I move my arms and legs and my body moves forward. That's where the inclined floor comes into play. So what we do here is we place the child on this inclined floor, which is a smooth environment. Very important that it's smooth. That way, when the child moves arms and legs, the child easily moves down that inclined floor. And we need to make the incline that perfect height. So if the child even makes a slight movement of arms and legs, they move forward. And you can see in this video, this girl is learning how to crawl on the inclined floor. So now, having that I've spoken about it, let's watch this video again and see how this girl, who was never able to crawl on her belly on the flat floor — this is a girl who was diagnosed with developmental delay and cerebral palsy — watch how she crawls so successfully on the inclined floor. Notice she's not using all of her limbs, but that's okay, because she's learning how to move with her legs mostly in this video. Notice she's not, in this video, she's not using her arms very much yet.
Давай, 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 давай.
That's mom cheering.
Давай, 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 давай. Молодец, молодец.
Mom is saying, good job.
Умница, умница. Вот, умница моя.
And you can see here that she's crawling for a toy. She's got a motivation to crawl. Now you're going to see a video of her taken, I think, about 6 months later, and this is her on the flat floor, the same child. Please notice here, her right arm and her left leg are working together in unison. This is the start of the development of a cross pattern. Watch her go. Look how much more competent she is. Look how much she's using her arms now. Right? Now she's not just using her arms, she's reaching out, grabbing an object and pulling it toward her. This is because the inclined floor has allowed her to improve the function in her arms and legs. The more she moved her arms and legs, the more she moved forward. That improved her range of movement, her strength, her coordination, and so on. So this is why the inclined floor is the foundational Doman Method piece of equipment to getting a child moving. Right? If you want to get your child walking, first your child needs to learn how to crawl and creep. And by the way, if that sounds challenging, there is challenge there for sure. But the big question is, do we want to be successful? And if we want to be successful, this is the way to do it. It is, I can tell you, having seen thousands and thousands of children over nearly 2 decades on this program, it is almost never that you see a child with special needs go from being immobile to walking immediately, because their brains aren't ready for it yet. They don't have the balance, the coordination, or the strength to do that yet. But when we have them move through the necessary mobility milestones, crawling, creeping, and then walking, they have the best shot at learning how to walk. And that's why over the last 70 years, the Doman Method has been the most successful program in terms of helping children learn how to walk and run of any program out there that we know of for kids with special needs. So I hope that that is helpful. It's just a little bit of a taste of what the Doman Method physical program is all about. There is a whole book that's been written on this subject, and I'm looking around to see, do I have it nearby? And I don't see it. There's a book called From Immobility to Walking by Douglas Doman. From Immobility to Walking. It's written by my father, Douglas. You can find it on Amazon. It is the best book for teaching a child who cannot yet walk. There it is, From Immobility to Walking by Douglas Doman. You can find it on Amazon. Okay, now I will go to questions from the audience. I see we've had a few questions come in on Instagram. I will start there. So Anjali, first question is the Doman reading program a success with older kids like a 4-year-old? I stopped in between and I want to start again with my 4-year-old. Anjali, absolutely. 4, 5-year-olds, even 6-year-olds have great success learning to read with our reading program. I'm not sure if this child has a developmental delay or special needs. Let me know in the comments if they do. But whether they do or they don't, the Doman reading program is very, very successful. I would recommend if your child has a special need or developmental delay, that you reach out to us, you send us a direct message, and we can kind of like help you with next steps. If you have a well neurotypical kid and you're just interested in the Doman Method for early child development, I would recommend you check out domanlearning.com. You see the reading before school course, because we've got a whole course there on how to teach children to read, and also the materials to do it as well. Good question, Anjali. I got a very similar question that came in from Josh. Josh said, can we start the Doman Method reading program for a 3-year-old? It's a child who's 3 years, 7 months old. So I'll give you the same answer, Josh. The answer is absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely begin the reading program with a child of that age. It's a great age to begin the program. Actually, interestingly, my grandfather Glenn Doman's book, which is called How to Teach Your Baby to Read, in the Italian version, the Italian translation of the book, it's actually called Reading at 3 Years, because I guess the publishers there felt it was a better marketing idea to call it Reading at 3 Years than How to Teach Your Baby to Read. So absolutely, 3 years is a really great age to begin. Again, Josh, I'd say the same thing to you as I said to Anjali. Check out, if your child has some kind of special need, I'd recommend shooting us a direct message here at Doman International. We'll kind of help you with next steps. If your child is a well neurotypical kid, I'd recommend domanlearning.com. Check out the reading before school course. I teach a bunch of classes there in the reading before school course on how to do the reading program. And also you have access to all the reading materials there as well. Okay. Now, I am waiting to see if we have any other questions coming in. Just a quick thing about the Doman books, because I see we've had a few of the books mentioned. So sometimes parents will ask, what are the best books to start with? So for a parent with a child who has special needs or developmental concerns, the first book I'd recommend is The Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness, written by my dad, Douglas, and I. This is kind of the foundational book for parents who have any real concerns about their child's development. By the way, many of the things that I talked about earlier in the session about mobility development are in this book. And just to give you an idea of some of the subjects that are covered, we talk about everything from speech development, sensory integration, cognitive development like reading, nutrition. We talk about so much how the brain grows and develops. So this is book number 1. You can see it's also there over my shoulder. Now, if you have a child who happens to have an autism or ADD diagnosis or ADHD, I would recommend this book called Answering Autism, the Doman Method Plan for Autism, ADD, and Neurodevelopmental Delays. This book has just more specific information for parents with that diagnosis. And then, of course, for those of you who are just asking about the reading program and you're interested in getting started with your child, my grandfather, Glenn Doman, wrote this book called How to Teach Your Baby to Read. And it's a great book, also in conjunction with the Doman Learning course about reading. All right. I'm going to bring Colleen in. Hi, Colleen. Colleen is our Director of Representatives.
How are you, Spencer?
I'm good. I'm good. So, okay, so I've got another question that's coming here from Josh, who says, so I was doing the program since she was 6 months old, and after she turned 2, it was not consistent, and she hadn't shown any progress. So I'm wondering, where did I go wrong? Well, Josh, I'll give you my answer, and then Colleen might have some additional thoughts on this. So first of all, you may not have done anything wrong. That's the first most important thing. Sometimes, when a child is around 2 years old, some kids are more vocal about what they learn and will be more obvious about kind of showing off their abilities, right? So there are some children that when they learn how to read with the Doman method, they just read words out loud, or they point to words and read them. And so they make it very obvious to the parent, wow, this is happening, right? These are real results. There are other children who, usually because of their personality, maybe they don't like to feel like they're being put on the spot. Maybe they're nervous that they might make a mistake, and so they don't like to show off. And each child is their own individual, just like adults, and so they have different personalities. So the first thing is, you didn't necessarily do anything wrong. And often, for those of you who have been asking about, starting the reading program with a 3 or 4 year old, one of the nice things about older children is they tend to want to be more actively involved in what they're learning. And often that involves, like, they're more likely to read words out loud. Very often their speech is more developed, or they're happier to kind of point at words and show parents what they've learned. So I would just recommend, Josh, you get restarted with the program, and then stay in touch with us here about how it's going. Let us know if you feel it's going successfully, if questions come up, because it's very different to teach a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old, right? So just get started. You probably did everything right. In fact, what we usually say is, if your child is enjoying it, you're probably doing everything right. If you said your child wasn't enjoying it, that might be more of an indicator that a change is needed. Colleen, any other things you want to add to what I said?
Yeah, I really agree with that. And I think it's very easy for us as parents to become a little neurotic about our efforts, because we're trying so hard and we care so much. And then you have your kid who has their own agenda and plan, and, things they want to do in the day. And so finding a way to take advantage of the things that they're interested in and the way that they interact with you is really important. If you're home all day with your kid, then you can take advantage of more teachable moments. If you're limited to weekends and maybe early morning, then there's even more pressure on you, feeling like, we got to get this in now. But the truth of the matter is that your kid is learning every second of the day. So if you are relaxed about it and really saying, you know what, this is fun. This is added value to our lives, and just really enjoying yourself, then I think that's better for everybody. Your kid won't feel pressured. As Spencer said, some children feel very naturally. It's a personality thing, like, ooh, I'm on the spot. Ooh, daddy really cares about this. I mean, our kids know when we really care about something, and we get very kind of serious, and sometimes you get that sort of, hey, this is fun. And your kid is like, whoa, I don't know what your problem is. I'm going to go over here and play with the Legos that are much less pressure. And of course, you don't want to put pressure on your kid. That's never your intention. Your pressure is on yourself, but really try to not do that to yourself. As Spencer said, I doubt you've done anything wrong. even if your kid is running in the opposite direction, it's just a symptom of, okay, maybe we need to take a step back and, find our joy again, find our fun in it, and then come back to it. And your kid will say, oh, thank goodness. All right, this is a good thing that we do. This is play, not,
Yeah.
fear and
Yeah, and especially with that 2-year-old age, those kids are constantly on the move. And most 2-year-olds, they want to climb up on the couch and then jump off 30 times a day. And reading may not be at the top of their priority list. And so sometimes also it's about kind of shortening the length of sessions to make sure that you're kind of keeping them as short as the child wants them to be. So, yeah, Josh, I think, yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
I did what my mother did, which was put words up around the house too.
Mhm.
We had words on every wall. All of the things in our house that could be labeled were labeled, but also so as you went through your day, and then I would change them out. I'd leave them up for a couple of days, then I put new words up. And so it was a fun way to take, because my daughter was very active at that age and did not want to sit for more than a word or two before she was off to the next thing. So that's
Right.
fair.
Yeah, and it's a great, putting up words around the house, labeling things is great because children at that age usually need things to be labeled for them anyway, in the sense they need the repetition of language to improve their understanding, right? They need parents to tell them, oh, look at that, look, that's the refrigerator, or, because they need to hear words used many times in the environment. So putting the words on objects around the house, first of all, it'll bring your child's attention and interest in more things. And also it'll improve their comprehension along with their reading. So that's really a great idea. All right. I see that we've got an interesting question here from Karen. And Karen's asking, do we have any programs for adults? My mother has been diagnosed with Lewy body disease, and I believe that TBI significantly impacted her cognition. I also think that she may have experienced an undiagnosed stroke because of her facial features appear that way to me. They're asymmetrical. So Karen, you may not know this, but when my grandfather, Glenn Doman, started this work, he actually started first with stroke patients. Usually they were in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And that's where he actually developed the method for the first time, because these are patients who had suffered brain injuries. And so, you're probably absolutely right that there was an undiagnosed stroke, and that some kind of traumatic brain injury also was involved. Now, Lewy body, I have to admit, I'm not an expert in Lewy body dementia, but being dementia, it is a progressive diagnosis, meaning it's predicted to get worse and worse over time. But that being said, first of all, if your mom has had a stroke or traumatic brain injury, our program could definitely help with that. The second thing that I'd like to say, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but it is something that we are looking into. It appears that many people that have dementia and other progressive neurological disorders like Alzheimer's are often dealing with issues of insulin resistance. So similar to diabetes, the cells in the brain are dealing with insulin resistance issues. And so essentially the brain cells aren't getting the energy that they need to function correctly. And so we have for many, many years looked very closely at the importance of nutrition for children with brain injury. And we rarely have children on our program, for example, that are diabetic because they eat such clean, healthy diets. But we've had some adults that joined our program who were diabetics. And with our nutrition program, we were able to reverse the diabetes, and sometimes even get those adults off of the medications that they had been prescribed for the diabetes. Of course, this is something that has to be done very carefully with a physician at Doman International seeing the process. But what I'm trying to get at here is that my guess is that your mom would be very much helped by a nutrition program along with the rest of our programs to help with brain development. So I think for probably Karen, what I would recommend to you is maybe getting in touch with Colleen, having a call with her. Colleen could get more information from you and bring it to our clinical director and our medical director, and then we could get back to you with more info about how we feel the program might be helpful for you. Colleen, anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think that's it. Karen, I believe we were in touch a little bit ago. So I want to, definitely check back in with you and bring bring your concerns, your mom's concerns to our clinical director and get a path forward for you.
Great.
Thank you.
Josh is saying, thank you for your inputs. Certainly helpful. Great. Yeah. Get restarted with the reading program, Josh, and, let us know how that goes. All right. Well, I'm looking, please, if you're joining, it doesn't matter whether you're joining us on Facebook, Instagram, or on YouTube, go ahead and type your questions into the comments box. I always urge people to get their questions in early because sometimes I get all the questions at the very end of the session and I don't have the time to get to all of them. Colleen, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit. Any questions you've gotten from parents in the last week that you thought might be helpful for us to discuss?
I had a mother ask me the other day. She wants to come for an appointment, but they're not quite ready for that yet. And she wanted to know the best way for her to use the information in the book, because she read the book and she was feeling a little overwhelmed by everything. So I would love to have I know what I told her, but I would love to have your insight as far as that goes. Her kid is 3 years old and has diagnosis of Down syndrome.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. My usual take on this is I would say to the parent, I'd say to this mom, what are you most excited to get started with? Because what we know is that when you have success with the Doman Method program with your child, the success is going to lead you to be motivated to keep going, right? So if you get started with the program and you start to feel successful, okay, we're doing this thing consistently, and then you start to see your child getting better and better, you're going to be motivated to keep going. And so, I'd say to the mom, what chapter in the Doman Method book excited you the most? Was it the sensory information? Was it nutrition? Was it the mobility chapter? Get started there. And most of the time, that's either an area of the program that parent feels, okay, I think I can do this, or sometimes it's based on the child's biggest need. Sometimes the parents say, I know my child has a big problem in this area and we got to get started here. That's those are both good reasons to get started. So I would say I would say do that. And by the way, sometimes when I even talk to parents for the first time and they're reading the Doman Method book, I'll even say to them, all right, let's talk about your child's issues. Now let's talk about the chapters in the book that most apply. What do you think you want to get started with first? And usually parents know in their hearts where they want to go first with it. Out of interest, what did you tell the mom?
I told her that she should start with doing the profile, because I said that'll give her a clear picture. And I said if she has any questions that she should come to this session, since we do this every week. But I said starting with the profile would give her a clearer picture of what exactly it is that would benefit her kid the most. But I actually like your answer better, because I was coming at it very intellectually, saying, oh, well, of course you want to start with your having an evaluation, because then your steps. But I think for a lot of parents, they they're more looking at it from the perspective of what am I most concerned about for my kid? And I know what that is. You know, I'm a mom. I know, like, I can feel it. So I'd rather read the chapter about the thing that might address that and start there. I like that. I appreciate
Yeah, well, and to your point, the nice thing about doing the profile, and I've got one here with me, right? That develop many parents watching this probably know this, but the developmental profile is a tool that we've been using at Doman International for, well, more than 6 decades to evaluate child development. It was created by my grandfather, Glenn Doman, and was developed with him and his team. After observing how children in different cultures develop. And what he found is that children, kind of regardless of culture or nationality or language, children develop basically the same everywhere. And so he outlined what are the most important milestones that children should reach in their development in the first 6 years of life. And one of the great uses of the profile is when you map out where a child is, you can actually see there are 6 columns, right? Vision, hearing, and tactility, the 3 most important sensory abilities, and then mobility, language, and manual competence, the 3 most important motor areas. When we've mapped out a child on the profile, it usually becomes very clear where the child's strengths in their development and then where are the biggest challenges that they're facing, right? So for example, I saw a family last week. We marked the child across the profile. And for that child, the child was at a 3-year-old level in every area of development except for speech, where the child had hit the milestones for a 7-month-old, but nothing above. And so it was very clear, okay, this is the area we most need to focus on. The child had other needs, but that was abundantly clear. And so the profile is great for gaining clarity on what a child or an adult needs. And then, you can take it from there. You can still pick the thing that you think your child needs the most. All right, we've got a question that's here from Sandra, who says, does the Doman method, the physical program, help with primitive reflexes? Or do I have to take another program for those reflexes? My son, sorry, I think this question has come, only with Doman changed his muscle tone. Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, Sandra, there are actually some primitive reflexes that we stimulate in our program. So to give you an example, we have programs to stimulate the light reflex for children with visual issues. For children with auditory issues, we stimulate something called the startle reflex. We evaluate something called the Babinski reflex, which is a tactile reflex. Some children have other reflexes like the Moro reflex or the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex. There are many different kind of primitive reflexes we look at. And if we feel a child has a challenge in one of those reflexes, we stimulate the reflex. So in my opinion, no, I don't think you need a primitive reflex program in addition to the Doman method. We've picked out the reflexes that we feel are most important. And even over the course of 6 or 7 decades, we have also learned that there are certain primitive reflexes that we tried stimulating many, many times, and we didn't see any results from it. And so, there sometimes you'll notice that, and we don't tend to spend a lot of time on the things that we have tried and they didn't work. So that it's one of the positive things of having kind of generations of a team working in unison. You learn from the mistakes of the people before you and the mistakes that you make. And that's really beneficial. Anything else, Colleen, you want to say about that?
Yeah, actually, you just made me think. I feel as if it might be beneficial sometime for families to write a blog post or do a few videos about, here are some things that we did try once upon a time, or Glenn tried, or members of our team tried, and here's why we found they weren't as important as we hoped they would be, and that's why we don't do them. Because I do feel with the primitive reflex thing, for instance, I have talked to many families who have said, oh yeah, I was told primitive reflexes are very important. Do you guys do that? And of course I think, well, yeah, because our program encompasses every area of development, I tend to just say, well, yeah, of course we do that, because why wouldn't we? But there are there are people out there saying, oh, we've just discovered this is a really great thing to do, this primitive reflex thing. And I guess from my perspective, especially not as a clinician, but as someone who's been exposed to this for most of my life, I think, oh, well, but we've been doing that for a long time as part of a bigger picture, So we don't leave it by the wayside, but we don't highlight it because it isn't necessarily the most important thing that we do, or, it's just part of a larger thing. So I feel like it might be, and I do tell parents that, yes, we do cover all of these things that this person over here or that person over here, like they all have great ideas. But the thing is, honestly, humbly, our team had these ideas many years ago and we've been doing them for a long time. We have those years and years of experience with the big picture and how each of those little bits fits in. So it might be interesting though, because sometimes parents will say, oh, why have you never done this? And if I know that we have and it wasn't really effective, I say we did and we found it wasn't really effective.
It didn't work. Yeah.
That's right. So we stopped it.
Yeah, they'll say like, oh, have you tried the Smith method? And we're like, oh yeah, we tried that and we met Smith and it didn't work. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So we have another question here, Colleen. I'll pull this up again from Karen. Do you treat brain injured adults? If so, the contact information for the person that I should contact. So would you mind answering that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, Karen. I believe I do have some of the details from the last time we were in touch, but I want to just get everything down. You can email me at info at domaninternational.org, or you can call me at 814-232-8668. I will need to share that information with our clinical director because I'm not, I don't have that expertise. But once we have all the information, then the team can look at it and come back with a recommendation and a plan forward.
Yeah, and let's see. Oh, I'm just putting up Colleen's email there, info at domaninternational.org. And Karen, we absolutely work with brain injured adults. Absolutely. And I would say over time, probably seeing more and more. The program, the ability for the brain to change, neuroplasticity, exists throughout our lifetimes. And I even saw a family member, about someone in my wife's family, sustain a profound brain injury about 6-7 years ago. And even I was astonished at how quickly the brain can recover from a profound brain injury. This was a car accident that led to a profound coma. How quickly someone at an older age can recover when the right things happen. So yeah, the answer is absolutely. All right. Karen also asked for the link for enrolling in the Giving Tuesday event. Now, of course, no one can copy down what I've put there, but if you go into the comments of Facebook or YouTube, you'll see a clickable link there. Click on the link and you can sign up for tomorrow's Giving Tuesday event. As I said earlier in the presentation, we're going to be giving out helpful recommendations. Douglas and Rosalind Doman are going to be going over 5 teachings of Glenn Doman that we don't really talk about often, but are very helpful. I'm going to be talking about success stories of children over the last year. We're going to be talking about things like, tips and tricks for your child's nutrition program, for your child's sleep. So a lot of great things that are going to be covered tomorrow. All right. Let's see if I've got, okay, I think I addressed all the questions there. All right, I have a question here from Abby, who has a question about the Doman Method reading program. She's asking, when you show your child a sentence in the reading program, do I have to point to the word when I read sentences? Because my mother language is Arabic, and unlike most of the other languages, we read from right to left. And actually, I might be wrong about this, but I think it's something like a third of languages in the world read right to left instead of left to right. So it's actually a pretty surprisingly large number of languages. And the answer is still no, Abby. You don't have to point to the words as you're reading the sentence to the child. Keep in mind that you should be using words that your child has already seen in the reading program. So, if you're showing the sentence, "Mom loves pizza," your child should have seen the words "mom loves" and "pizza" already. So then when you show the sentence, the child kind of naturally knows which way to go. Because they've already seen those words before. The reason why we don't point at words is just because it slows you down, right? If you read we want to read to a child at a natural pace, because we want the child to read at a nice, quick, natural pace, right? So you would say, "Mom eats pizza" without pointing, right? But with pointing, you might go, "Mom eats pizza," and we don't want to teach a child to be a slow reader. So that's one of the reasons why we don't point at words. All right, good question. All right, I don't see any other questions here. Colleen, while we're waiting for questions to see if any last ones come in, do you mind just giving your contact information one more time? I like to put up your phone number, but I can never remember it.
Oh, it's okay. So my phone number is 814-232-8668. I'm in Philadelphia, so I'm on East Coast time. And my email address, again, is info, I-N-F-O, at domaninternational.org.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks a lot, Colleen. I see a question here from Sandra. Sandra is asking here, what is beneficial about patterning? My son, she's asking this in Spanish. My son began to understand more, but is there another benefit? I'm only able to do it 4 times per week. So Sandra, I'm going to answer in English and then I'll answer in Spanish. Okay. So, although I think Sandra might understand both based on her prior question. So patterning, it can be helpful for many different brain functions. You mentioned your child's understanding has improved. That's great. It can improve things like comprehension and organization and focus. It can also help mobility coordination. So if a child, for children who cannot move, it can help them learn to crawl or creep. But even for children who can walk and run, it can help with coordination. And then last but not least, it can help vision. Patterning helps develop the midbrain, which is the part of the brain that we use for visual convergence. And that's very important for things like reading and fine motor skills, buttoning, things like this, where you really have to give visual focus on one specific area. Patterning can be very helpful for developing vision because it develops the part of the brain which is responsible for that. Sandra, let me know if you want me to translate that into Spanish, and I can. All right. Anything else you'd like to add about patterning, Colleen?
Me, no.
No.
Thank you.
Patterning is probably, I believe it's the oldest treatment program that's been at use at Doman International. It was one of the first programs that my grandfather, Glenn Doman, created with Temple Fay. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is a program where the child lies on a table or adult lies on a table, and we move their arms and legs in a coordinated pattern to teach the brain how it feels to move in a cross pattern. And we talked earlier about the importance of a cross pattern. I showed the video of the inclined floor and helping children learn how to crawl. So the patterning program is one of our oldest programs. And because it's the oldest program, it's probably one of the best known programs, and has been used with tens of thousands of different children over the years. Oh, and I see Sandra has said here, okay, thank you. My son has had improvement in vision a lot too. There you go. Okay, so yeah, so Yeah, and I can understand, especially when sometimes when you do a treatment day after day, it can be kind of unclear sometimes. Okay, why are we doing this again? And so it's helpful to go over those reasons.
Actually, I do have something to say about
Yeah,
patterning real quick.
yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
and this has nothing to do with our kids, but my brother's dog has a neurodegenerative disease. He's a very happy guy, and they're working with him to, you know, have a good quality of life for a bit more. He has a device because his back legs basically are not getting the signal from the brain that they need to work appropriately. They have a device that allows it kind of helps his legs to move. They have moved his legs, and now he's with the device on, he's able to walk. And I said to my brother, "You're patterning him."
You're patterning the dog.
And he said, "Oh, I guess you're right. We are. It's working." He still needs muscular support, but his limbs are moving now in, you know, that they couldn't before. So
Wow, that's amazing.
it really is.
My
Yeah,
grandfather would be very proud. Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, I see there's a question here from Chloe who said, "Hi, Morgan answered a post of mine on Facebook today. I will reach out by email later. But since you're live now, I have a question about the math program. Should I start with the Red Dot Math program with my 9-year-old son who has learning disabilities due to a rare genetic condition, or should I start differently because of his age?" Good question, Chloe. So with older children, and Chloe, I'll try to look back and tag you on this video. But if you go back in the Doman International timeline on Facebook, for example, and you look up math, you should be able to find a video of me teaching about how I begin math with children over 2 years of age. I tend to take a different approach now with older children than using those red dot quantity cards. I teach quantities usually using objects like poker chips, because I find that it's usually more engaging for the older children and their ability to retain the information is better. So I'll look back, Chloe, and see if I can find that video on our timeline, and I'll try to tag you on it so you can watch it. And then the other thing is, Chloe, I'm not sure if there are a few different resources you can go to for kind of updating a math program. Okay, so first of all, you say that you were in touch with Morgan, so I'm not sure if that's through the Doman Learning page or where you were in touch with Morgan. But if you've signed up for the Doman Learning Math Before School course, I do have a whole teaching module there for children over 2.5 years. So I'm just letting you know, if you've signed up for that course already, you could go there. The other thing is, if you're interested in doing something like, you know, getting a consultation with Doman International, like you want some, you know, one-on-one teaching from our staff, shoot us a message on Facebook or on Instagram, and you know, Colleen could jump on a call with you and talk that through with you. All right. Hope that's helpful. All right. I think we've gotten to all the questions. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining. Remember, tomorrow we have our Giving Tuesday event. I have put the link in the Facebook and YouTube comments. Just scroll down, find the link. It's a StreamYard.com link. Sign up. Come to tomorrow's event. We have a lot of interesting sessions that are going to be done. And if you're on Instagram, if you go to our stories, there's a video of me there with talking about the event, and yeah, you can sign up there.
Share it with friends.
Share it with friends.
If there's anyone who has been like, "What is this thing you're looking into?" This is a great introduction, I think, to what we do.
Great. Yeah. All right, Colleen, thanks so much. Thanks everyone for joining, and see you soon. Bye-bye.